Good evening, this is Kelsey Wilhelm. Welcome to the TDM Talk Show. Our guest tonight is a talented film director, writer, and producer. He's found a passion for looking into the underlying fabric of the city that he grew up in and which he has come to know and portray so well on screen. Growing up in Macau, but of Russian origins, Maxim Bessmertny's work has led him to festivals across the globe. But the most recent adventure takes him back to his roots in Vladivostok. Thank you for joining us tonight, Maxim.
Thank you very much for having me.
So this is a very interesting, not only festival to go to, but also it links back into your history as well. And it is the world premiere of the film Sampan.
That's
so
correct.
Can you just tell us, it's taking place in Vladivostok.
Right.
Have you been back there recently? You're originally from there, correct?
Well, I was born in Vladivostok in 1988. This would be the first time I'm coming back since I left back in '93. So I left as a 4-year-old, came to Macau, and now is the first time that I'd be going back to my birth town and town where I basically went to primary school, or even kindergarten, we could say, not primary school.
So do you have any memories of it from before you came to Macau?
So the first memories I've built was actually leaving the town. I have scattered images that I remember of how it looks like, but actually I don't think that they're exactly real because I saw it on Google Maps. It looks a little different from what I imagined it.
So you get to kind of create a first impression while going to this film festival and taking a film with you to the film festival.
Exactly. It's a pleasure to have done that. It's an incredible honor to that the Pacific Meridian Festival has me there, and that I get to share the film with the audiences who go to this festival and with fellow Russians, as I'm also born there.
And so Sampan, how did you go about getting the film to the festival? How did you go about deciding that you were going to be going to this festival in particular?
Right. So Sampan was my thesis film project for film school. The way that that I developed this scenario was through various different drafts and scripts, but I've always wanted to shoot on film. So this was a project that I was going to shoot on Kodak film, and the joy of it was that it's a story about 3 characters, and they're very different characters. Its underlying theme is East and West. And it's about a businessman and a fisherman and an actress who are involved in a love triangle because of a fishing net. So this log line gave me immense inspiration in very different directions in writing. And eventually I ended up with a script that I was happy with and decided to go and shoot it.
Well, that's interesting because you're based in a place where they're constantly East meets West. You actually filmed all of it in Hong Kong, correct?
That's correct. We shot in Sai-Kung, off the coast of Sai-Kung, but around an hour away from the actual island line. So we're literally we're close to the coast of Hong Kong, but we're in the water while we're filming the entire time. So as we're shooting, rain and boat movement, I added an extra difficulty. Imagine underneath us we have a moving surface while we're trying to speak. So every time I'm editing and every time we finish a take with an actor and a scene, the background has changed. So we always have to move with the current, and that was quite a challenge to do that, to do the dialogue scenes, particularly of Sampan in the film.
So, and in the film itself, many people will see the film and they will look and say, oh, there's a boat. But in order to film the boat, you have to have another boat.
Right.
And in order to supply that boat, you have another boat, right?
Right, and you also need to, don't forget, you need to light up because we're shooting on Kodak, so you need to expose for the skin and the color of actors' skin and their eyes, and you need to have edge light. Film is very sensitive to lighting, and we used a stock in particular that required us to have another 2, 3. So we had a total of 4 boats on this project. Yeah, so that's 1 crew boat, 2 shooting boats, and 1 more kind of lifeguard dinghy that we could move back and forth between the beach. We had a scene on the beach. so that we could move the actors back and forth and the equipment as well. So this was definitely, I mean, it's exciting, it's challenging, it's something I wanted to try that was different for sure than anything that I've done, and I think that's the joy of doing films that are different.
And it's not your first movie also. You've shot before, but it does seem like biting off quite a bit. It seems like you have to be quite brave to take that step. So I mean, as a young filmmaker, do you think that it's good to challenge yourself that much within when you're making not your first movie or your second movie, but still in the sequence of that? Do you think it's good to really push yourself?
For me, I just wanted to try this out. I had a very inspired cameraman who also wanted to, you know, he was good at shooting on Kodak, and we thought, you know, this is an opportunity to shoot on film. We have the stock, and you know, why not go for the adventure? It was literally like one of the filming process in itself is also an interesting story. It's not the final result, but there's always a story behind the filming. That this one was particularly challenging in finding the islands, finding the right coastlines, teaching the actors how to operate the boat, as well as be in character while they are fishermen, or while you're playing a businessman and you're driving the yacht. We did it all there, you know.
And nobody crashed.
And nobody crashed anywhere, thankfully, you know.
That's good.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, shooting on film, you mentioned this a couple times, but the film didn't just come out of anywhere. The film was a result of a success from another film of yours.
Right.
So how did the film come into the equation?
So I never thought about shooting on film because I realized how expensive it is, first of all, but also how there's not many film development facilities anymore. We've gone into a digital world since, you know, the mid to late 2000s. So it was particularly, I could say, almost ostracizing myself in selecting celluloid. But this came about because the previous film, Tricycle Thief, which was premiered at the Toronto Film Festival back in 2014, we won an award for that. It was a Kodak Gold Award, and I was given any choice of 25 reels of any film that I wanted to select. And so I looked through, I tried to study what would the coastline of Hong Kong look best in. Would it be black and white? Would it be the grainier ones? And we decided that it was daylight stock. So daylight Kodak Super 16mm film that was really beautiful and invoked this old school feeling. Again, you know, you could recreate this. Possibly there are filters in digital, but it's not the same experience. I think going through that is going through the wild Moby Dick journey, you know, hunting for the whale, searching for the whale. I think that was the beauty behind this project. And
so you literally had to carry around reels of film from the beginning to the end of the film.
That's right. So we carried reels of film through the airport control and through X-rays. So they had to have tents, and they had to analyze, you know, whether it's film, and you know, eventually I got it processed in Los Angeles, and they did a great job. So then we brought it back, and that's how you edit it. In the final reels become digital footage, and it was a hell of an adventure. I'd also seen other film classmates of mine, elders who had shot on film, and I was always very jealous because I was so inspired by their projects. They shot on black and white. They shot on 35mm. You know, we had these huge cameras in school where you just you could barely move around on handheld. You really need like huge, heavy-duty tripods and Steadicams and things like that. But you know, it's kind of the duty of the filmmaker, you know, to try different things and to try as best as he or she to communicate a story with whatever means are available.
And for this particular one, you chose Hong Kong as a backdrop, but you've chosen Macau as a backdrop for quite a few of your films and your scripts as well.
Right.
And in particular, relating to Tricycle Thief, I mean, it was described as being, you know, a very saturated background, and it's a very you can really look into especially the nightscape of Macau within the film. Macau can be a beautiful city to film in, but we don't see it in as many movies as you would think. Am I wrong in that assumption?
Well, I think that perhaps you're alluding to, you know, some gigantic, big blockbuster projects that already have the marketing behind them to be delivered to 5 million different cinemas. You know, I don't know if that's the amount of cinemas that exist in the planet, but let's say it is. That's not the case with a lot of indie films. With a lot of indie films, we find the location. You know, we go to the location of the owner. We try and build rapport. It's also, filmmaking is a lot about relationship building and psychology and everything you've learned in life and communication. You know, so the joy of it is once you've landed a perfect location and the fact that, you know, we're allowed to shoot in the city, and once we're allowed, you know, we decided, let's do nighttime. You know, let's make the streets look golden or whatever color palette it was. I think my cameraman was saying it was purple and yellow, but I think there's a little more gold in it. But the joy of it is endless, you know. And I think that bringing back to your question, it's really tough when the films that are well marketed are brought in from outside. So everything the marketing has been set up. It's a lot of times they're foreign films. They haven't read or they haven't had time to read the entire 500 years history of Macau.
Yes.
They haven't had time to speak to, you know, to the who's who. They haven't had time to speak to, you know, all levels and all kinds of people. So of course there's certain things that don't land naturally with the audiences that are from here, or even the audiences that know about this place, because there's a certain mystique, and it takes time to really discover it. And I think we're trying. The indie film industry here is trying to do exactly what you're asking about,
and
is to portray this reality.
Yeah, and it finds some of the very original scenes of Macau, and that's what I like of the work that I've seen from you so far. It really does take snapshots, and when you look at something like the James Bond movie that was supposedly filmed in Macau and was done on a soundstage, you know, many people were not very happy about that. When you see something like even the most recent David Beckham commercial, the choice of language being Mandarin as the initial launch, it's good to have, theoretically, the people in different areas showing the originality of Macau. But specifically those bigger blockbuster films and things that do have more of an outreach, let's say, for now, do you think that they risk overusing, let's say, some of the more commonly known traits of Macau in a visual sense?
I don't know. I think even me, I mean, when you say you're a filmmaker, you're kind of a worldwide filmmaker. You also don't want to lock yourself, you know, because even if filmmakers from here would love to and dream of shooting in Greece, and like a little village in Greece, or in like a big town in somewhere in Japan, of course we want to shoot everywhere that's possible. Because that's film language, you know, and when you go to a place and you haven't been to it, I think the only things that my research would take me into is just being there, living there for a while, writing there for a while, and you know, doing the documentary version of it and then translating it into feature film. I don't know if that's always possible because, you know,
time constraints,
time and budgets.
Yeah.
But I think there's with digital, I think there's an easier and easier way to start making stuff that's real. But it all comes down to the script, you know, and we have to. thousands, hundreds of thousands of masters before us, and we have to kind of stand on the shoulder of giants and not be arrogant about it, and have to say that, you know, before Picasso there's Michelangelo, you know, or, you know, before Raymond Chandler there's Shakespeare, you know, and Aristotle. So we're following in film industry in 120 years or so, maybe a little more if I'm not mistaken. We're really following giants that have created a language, and what we're doing now, we have the means of technology, we have a means of innovating the landscape, almost also in 3D, in the digital aspect. We're working with different dimensions now. So, and the access is unbelievable. You know, you can watch an entire film on Netflix on your phone, or it's everything is accessible. So, I am still a bit of I can say that I love to go to the cinemas when the film is the story that I really connect with. I'll definitely go and see it on the big screen. Otherwise, because of time constraints, I think it's an incredible thing that we can watch it on our phone.
Now, that access is one thing because it's already a finalized product and it's taking advantage of the technology that we have.
Right.
But there's also the flip side. On the same smartphone or tablet that you're watching the movie on, you can also theoretically film your own movie.
Right.
Now that means that we could be coming into an age where people not only find that they need or want to document everything, but everybody's a filmmaker. Is that in any way dangerous to the film industry in and of itself? Is there automatically a barrier of entry that will stop people, or that will challenge them enough that the film industry does not get diluted by technology being used and without necessarily studying the craft behind it?
No, again, I think we're moving into such new territory. You know, like the discovery of and the evolution of VR and AR, and they've just I think recently last year one of my favorite film directors, Alejandro González Iñárritu, did this VR film about Mexican refugees moving across the border into America, but he did it in VR, and it was. I haven't seen this project, but the beauty of it is that we can create immersive experience. Everyone has a phone. Everyone can shoot something. Look, my relatives shoot things all the time, and they send me and they ask me, "What do you think of this shot? You know, what do you think of this?" And look, everyone can do it. It's a terrific way. We've been blessed. We can communicate easily. Now, when it comes to sending it to cinemas and creating a craft out of it, and actually building a portfolio, taking it as a career, that's a different level. You have to study the craft. You have to have your skin in the game. You know, you have to be involved, and you have to have done absolutely everything. You can't be a general in an army without having been a dishwashing soldier first. You know, so it's all through steps, I think.
And also, it seems like there are a lot of some of the key pairs that you see within filmmaking or groups of filmmakers. The collaborations do have a strong part to play as well. In supporting the ones that you know have talent, gaining support from people who understand your talent. Within Macau, there is a talent pool. What would you say of that talent pool? How would you describe it?
I mean, could you elaborate?
There are different filmmakers in Macau which can be known for different things, different styles, different styles of storytelling. Of course. Short films, feature-length films.
Documentaries, don't forget, you know.
Yes.
We've had documentaries, we have terrific support, you know, from the government, and we have good support from associations here, and it's just growing and growing. And now, you know, we've had documentaries. In fact, how I started was with the Rush 48 program way back when, I think maybe 8 years ago, and we started doing short films with a association, Audiovisual Cut, and that was my first actual out of work, making short films, writing the narrative, and practicing, you know. So there was always a cultivation, and people need it more and more. So it's growing. It's like being in Los Angeles, you know, imagine being in Los Angeles in 1905 or something like that, or a little later. You have the technology, but everything is starting, and it's just terrific to be here.
So that, I mean, from your point of view, there is quite a potential for the film industry in Macau, not only using it as a backdrop for some of these larger groups that come in and see a frame that they like of it.
Sure, absolutely.
But also, do you expect to see more filmmakers appearing in the framework in Macau?
And hopefully, you know, we in Macau will tell them, hey, you have to go through us first. You know, that's the idea. You want to make films here, you go through us. You know, you go through our filmmakers. You go through, you know, the entire industry, because we're here. You know, we're trained. There's so many talented filmmakers. We went to film schools all over the world. They're being trained now. They're coming back here. You know, I think it's time to start paying attention to the filmmakers of Macau. You know, and I have to say we have this, so we're ready. And whatever is coming in, it's more opportunity for us in that sense. And that's how, you know, that's at least how I think I should look at it.
Now, Macau also, it has its own talent pool currently, but you'd mentioned also the importance of the training and of the people who have been here, who have gone through that training internationally. Talent has been one of the key words which has been used extensively by the government and the private sector here in Macau. Would there be any interest? Is there a point in setting up something like a film school in Macau that could train these up-and-coming people?
I mean, I don't. These are huge questions. By private means, I have no way of opening my own film school yet. But if I ever had it, I mean, absolutely. You know, because it gives you an academy. Like, imagine a Greek academy training its centurions. It gives it an academy to train its cameraman, its dolly pullers, its gaffers, its sound man, its makeup artists, its production designers, it's all sorts. It's not just, you know, directing and producing and writing. It's all of it. That's the strength of having, you know, a film school and actors coming in and being trained. I think that's terrific. You know, when you know all of these. All of the crafts, again, all you could see is great results, and hopefully, you know, in the future there is that. I believe there are some film schools here, of course, and
regionally, yes.
Regionally, so I think regionally pulling in more interested students and collaborating with them, it'd be terrific for the industry as well.
And we do have the Greater Barrier Project, so we can see what possibilities may arrive with that. What about in terms of you're going now, and you're not necessarily acting as a representative of Macau, but given the amount of time and the experience that you've gained here, will you be taking that with you when you go to Vladivostok to the Pacific Meridian Film Festival? What are some of the objectives of going there? You're going to meet some of your fellow directors, writers, producers? Well,
I think it's whenever you have an opportunity with a film, and any exposure in the film festival is terrific as a filmer. You get to show it after 2 years of holding it in an editing box. You get to show it to an audience of however many people, the entire festival as well. So I'm going there just, you know, just as I went to Toronto. I went as a very naive young man. I was very inspired. I couldn't believe that I was going there. You know, it was such a joy, and I was just blinded by all this beauty and when I mean film posters and, you know, just movie stars and film catalogs. I'm going there, and I have the opportunity to see the films, to meet filmmakers from around the world who are going to this festival, because it's a big film festival there, and it's on the circuit in September, so it's right after Toronto. And it's got a lot of good premieres. It's got a lot of films showing there that have won in Cannes and in Berlin and in Venice. So it's an opportunity to meet world filmmakers. And go there not only as a content creator, but also as an appreciator of the art that is there. Go there as an appreciator of the art, and go back to my birth town. You know, it's like kind of like, I don't want to be too dramatic here, but kind of I thought immediately about Cinema Paradiso, where the kid who used to be trained in running a projector in an old cinema in Italy, comes back to his town 30 years later, and he finds that the projectionist, who was this old man, he had a very charming relationship with him, has left him all of his favorite films, and he plays them on the reel, and it's just, you know, it's a heartbreaking scene. But I'm not saying it's that dramatic for me, but I haven't been back since I was 4, so I'm kind of discovering my roots in a way. And I think, you know, let's see what comes out of this.
Mm-hmm. And the film is screening, but also you also recently filmed. You recently screened Sampan as well,
Right.
and you described that as quite a unique experience, and
Oh, yes.
said that you enjoy also the crowd interaction
Yes.
and speaking with the. How can you describe a little bit more about that?
What happened is Hong Kong 852 filmmakers got in touch with me.
852, the area code for Hong Kong.
Yeah, 852. It's a filmmaking group. They meet up I think every Thursday or something like that. And they asked me if I wanted to screen the film. This is before I even told them about Vladivostok or anything. And, you know, I showed it to people, like it's a pretty packed little indie film screening area. And lo and behold, you know, there's like 50 minutes of questions, all of them about different aspects, you know, because I shared a little bit in the intro that it was shot on film, it's in the middle of the ocean, it has to do with the East meets West. It's about this kind of, it's about a fisherman. He falls in love with this beautiful actress from Hong Kong, but she is involved in a relationship with this elderly, you know, businessman, a foreign businessman who has a yacht. And immediately, I think there was some connection to the story from the audience. And I guess all the questions were, you know, they were just going in all directions, but they were also, it wasn't just questions, it was a dialogue. So they'd be telling me, so why did you have to spend so much? Why did you have to shoot on film? Why do you have to go into the middle of the ocean? You can just do it, you know, at home with your iPhone. And I was trying to explain, you know, what we discussed previously. It's about the journey, about the process. And the interactions got to very different stages and to different levels. And I think, you know, if you have a reaction like that, it's always positive for you because you learn a lot. You learn what the audience likes. You also learn from the mistakes you made. You know, you also learn where the jokes didn't land. One of the questions that I liked the most was, how do you feel when your jokes don't land? So when people laugh at different times in the audience than when you intended as a screenwriter. And I just said, look, it's always good to have an unexpected laugh, but you know, once you land an expected laugh, you know you wrote well because you landed the joke. And you know, it just kept going on, and it was a terrific evening. And I wish I could do more of these indie screenings. You know, this was in a kind of industrial, not in industrial. It was kind of in a social room, a social gathering. Okay. So it's not in a cinema, it's more open, you know.
But more intimate and...
Intimate, relaxed, you know, dim lights, and, you know, we're just discussing the entire time. There's no, like, here and here. It's very open.
Well, and for the next one, for the Pacific Meridian Film Festival, this will be a slightly larger scale and a bit of a different audience.
A little different, yeah, a little different. I believe it's a little more, you know, ordered. You're in a cinema. It's a film festival that's been running for the past. This is the 16th edition, I believe. Right. So, and it's in that corner of the world. So it's bringing in also films from that region. It's also bringing in filmmakers who are born. I'm not the only one who's coming back to this town. There's other filmmakers who were born there. There's a French and an Egyptian filmmaker who are born there but are coming back to screen their films. So it'll be terrific to, you know, to speak to everyone and to see how they feel and what the festival is like. I'm very excited.
It will go well, definitely. Well, we look forward to seeing more of your work.
Thank you very much.
Welcoming you back on the show as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you again.
Pleasure to meet you.
Pleasure to have you. That's all for this evening. Tune in next week for more. Thank you for watching, and good night.